It's all coming together now as all the pieces of the Habs offseason puzzle are coming together to form a masterpiece as Kent Hughes makes the perfect signing for Jakub Dobes on a 2-year deal at a price that everyone is thrilled with. We have to dive into the Dobes signing, but also on the Jayden Struble front, where a lot of fans are currently concerned because Struble is one of the few players in the NHL to elect for salary arbitration. It's not as bad as it seems on the surface, and we got to dive into what it means for the Habs for the rest of the summer, how it impacts the salary cap situation, how the Dobes contract impacts the salary cap situation, all that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And look, we'll start with Struble. And I know you guys probably saw the news last night. Jayden Struble is one of the 11 players that elected for salary arbitration in the NHL, alongside Nick Robertson for the Leafs, Kaapo Kakko with the Kraken, Lukas Dostal. I mean, crazy thing for the Ducks there. They need to sign him. I mean, they just traded away John Gibson. But look, this is all about Jayden Struble in Montreal. Now, again, in the intro to this video, I was saying how all the pieces are coming together for Montreal. And yes, this is maybe a little concerning to see a player want to go to salary arbitration, but at the end of the day, it's his right to get the amount of money that he wants. And I can't imagine the Habs and Struble are very far apart in their talks, but this to me is almost just an accelerator. I don't think Struble's camp wants to drag this out any longer than it needs to be. Salary arbitration is not, it doesn't even have to go to arbitration. This is just that he elected for it. Jayden Struble can still sign his contract before this actually gets to the arbitration that everyone tends to fear, where you have that arbitrator there and it's kind of player camp versus the team, and it can get a bit ugly at times, but he can still sign his contract before that. This just means like, hey, look, if we can't come to terms, I will do it, but we'll still work together. And to me, this is just an indicator that Jayden Struble wants to get this contract done sooner rather than later. Now, if you look at Scotiastat's projection for Jayden Struble, 1 year 1.15 or 2 years by 1.6 million. And I think that's fair, and I think that's probably close to where Montreal actually has Jayden Struble. And why I think that he's probably electing for arbitration is simply because when he was paired with Lane Hutson this season, he was one of, statistically, Montreal's best defensemen. That pairing, Jayden Struble and Lane Hutson, was one of our top 3 offensive pairings and top 3 defensive pairings. So I have to imagine that Jayden Struble and his camp are saying, hey, look, I mean, no, I know Montreal, maybe you're offering me 2 years by 1.5. I wouldn't mind 2 million. And let me see, I got his stats here. There they are. Again, 13 points in 56 games, and he was sent down to Laval for a little stretch. And, you know, looking at the Habs blue line, there's not much room for him, and that's kind of the problem with the acquisition of Noah Dobson. It muddies the situation. Yes, you still have Arber Xhekaj there, which is actually, I think, another talking point on this front, because remember, just a year ago on July 30th of last year, Arber Xhekaj signed a 2-year deal at 1.3 million. So you have to imagine if you're Jayden Struble and you're looking at your contract and you're saying, look, the cap is going up and up and up, even in just the next 2 years. Arber Xhekaj got 1.3. I had better statistics overall than Arber Xhekaj, though again, I don't have that maybe fully physical edge Arber has, though Jayden Struble is quite a physical defenseman. You have to imagine Struble's asking for a bit more. So to me, I am not worried in the slightest. I think this is more just like, hey, Habs, I really want to be here, and I want to sign this contract. I want to get it done, but I still want a bit of my money. And I imagine Struble's around 2. Habs are around 1.5. Wouldn't shock me to see Struble sign for like a 2-year, maybe $1.8, $1.9 million deal. So you heard it here first. If you see that kind of deal signed, don't be shocked. But hey, if it's less, it's less. That's awesome. But leave your thoughts on this down below, because this does have a lot of Habs fans concerned about the overall salary cap situation for the summer. And you know, not only does Jayden Struble's contract play into this, Jakub Dobes' contract also plays into this. And before I dive into what happened with Dobes and why I think it's such a good deal, I want to just highlight the whole salary cap situation, because with Struble eventually signed and with Dobes signed now, the Habs will still be probably between 5 and 6 million over the cap this offseason. And that sounds bad, but in the offseason, you can be 10% over the salary cap. So the cap this year, I think, is like 95 million for this past season. The Habs can go up to like 9 million-ish over the cap this offseason with no penalties. And again, remember, if we don't trade Carey Price's contract come September 1st after we pay his bonus, we can still put him on LTIR and have $5 million left on in-season salary cap, but you won't accrue the cap space. So we're in no trouble right now, considering we still have Price that we can put on LTIR. But we know Kent Hughes and co, they don't want to have to do that if they don't have to. So I anticipate a Price contract trading, but that's for the future. Right now, just to put all the worries to rest, don't worry about the cap. Unless we make another big move and we bring in a lot more money, then we might have to start worrying. But I want to dive into Jakub Dobes right now, because his contract, honestly, I'm so happy with. So the actual AAV of Jakub Dobes's contract, 2 years, $965,000 per season. That is a steal. You had Scotiastat here projecting him at a 2-year deal at 1.3 million or a 3-year at 1.6. Even his 1-year projection, he's getting paid less for 2 years than his 1-year contract projection. To me, that is an absolute steal. And if we dive into Jakub Dobes's contract, 2 years, $965K is such a steal considering the fact that Jakub Dobes was already a league average, if not above league average, backup last year. I mean, remember that stretch of 5 consecutive wins against 5 contending teams. Jakub Dobes put up unbelievable stretches this year. Yes, as the season went on, that those kind of flashes of brilliance started to go by the wayside, but he still had a pretty good playoffs. 881 save percentage doesn't look pretty, again, in 3 games, but the 909 save percentage in the regular season, of course, 2.74 GAA. A lot of backups in the league would love to have that kind of number, right? And again, a 900 save percentage, like, usually the 900 save percentage bar is right around 32nd, 33rd, 34th in the NHL. And if you can hover around 900 as a backup, you're pretty good. And you look at other backups in the league, they're getting paid a few $1 million each. So not only is this an incredible value contract for Jakub Dobes, for the Montreal Canadiens now paying Samuel Montembeault and Jakub Dobes. You see they still have Kaapo Kahkonen in there on Puckpedia. It's not officially updated yet, but Samuel Montembeault and Jakub Dobes combined making just a hair over $4 million is unbelievable considering most good starting goalies are making like 6, 7, 8, right? Like it's well, maybe that's an exaggeration for most, but the elite are making like 10 million. To have both of your goalies, both being very solid goalies, combined making just over 4 is absurd, right? And you know, we did just see, like, for example, Jake Allen signed a big time contract, 5 years until he's like 40 years old with the Devils at 1.8 per year, and that's going until he's 40. So again, this is unbelievable. But it's even better than you think here because, like I've said before, if you want to bury salary in the AHL, you can only go a bit above $1 million, where if you send a player down, their whole cap hit gets eliminated from your team. So, for example, Jakub Dobes, he's making $965,000. If, for whatever reason, we want to send him down to Laval, his whole contract will just come off the Habs books. So it makes manipulating the salary cap even easier. But why would we send him down to Laval, you might ask? Well, for one reason, Kaapo Kahkonen's still like an NHL fringe kind of guy. You never really know how things will go with Jakub Dobes. I don't anticipate him being sent down. I anticipate this is probably his net, even though he's getting paid less than Kahkonen. Kahkonen's a 1-year deal, and I think more of Laval insurance than anything, considering he just had a really good AHL playoffs. But hey, we'll have to wait and see. But regardless, both of those guys can get buried in the AHL, no problem. Their full cap hit will get absorbed by the Laval Rocket. None will be paid by Montreal. Why is that important? Because we have Jacob Fowler. Now, I'm not anticipating Jacob Fowler to come out, take the world by storm, and immediately be an unbelievable backup in the NHL, if not steal the starter's net. No, I mean, he's 20 years old. He'll turn 21 in November. But he has such a high pedigree in terms of goalie prospects in the league. Some places having him number 1, number 2, number 3 in the whole NHL for good reason. I mean, we saw his college stats, 940 save percentage in 2024-25. I don't know why Boston College is duplicated there, but regardless, he came into Laval and took Cayden Primeau, who I hope he has a great career over in Carolina, by the way, but we took Cayden Primeau, who had one of the best seasons in the entire AHL in net, and Jacob Fowler stole his net in just a couple of games. Came into the playoffs, played 8 games in the playoffs, and while there were some moments where he looked shaky, it looked like, yeah, he's still just learning how to be a professional. He came in, and he stole the net of one of the best goalies in the AHL. Primeau looked a bit shook. Primeau had a couple of bad starts. Fowler had 1 or 2 bad starts as well, but overall, I would say from the time Jacob Fowler got to Laval, maybe this is a hot take, maybe this is revisionist history. I don't think so. From the time Jacob Fowler got to Laval, and he took Cayden Primeau to net, I'd say he was the better goalie of the two in those 11 games that he played, plus the time Primeau was there as well. So for me, I wouldn't be utterly shocked if Jacob Fowler looked at this NHL roster and was like, listen, I got Jakub Dobes and Kaapo Kahkonen ahead of me. Kahkonen's on this 1-year deal. Jakub Dobes, 2-year deal, but I don't know, right? So if Fowler is a lot better than expected, a lot quicker than expected, you now have a way to bury the money. You have Dobes and Kahkonen, who would be also an elite AHL goalie tandem. You can put them both down to the AHL, and Fowler can come up to the NHL where you're not taking any kind of salary cap hit, right? Because Fowler is still on his rookie scale deal. So that would be unbelievable. but also even next year, we're talking, right? We don't know how fast Fowler's going to progress. Again, I don't anticipate some kind of insane season this year. I still anticipate him getting used to the pros, having a full season under his belt. It's not going to be as pretty as this small sample size we just had. We have to brace ourselves for that. But I think he could come in and have a great year. And even if this year is not the year he jumps to the NHL, even if it's next year, Jakub Dobes' contract for 2 years just adds to that flexibility. So to me, Montreal's making some great moves. Signing Jayden Struble is an inevitability for me. I believe, look, he's just electing his right? And part of the NHLPA, he can just say, hey, look, like, I just want to get a bit more money. Like, you guys understand. And I don't think this means anything negative about Struble, anything negative about the Habs organization. This is way more complicated than just, I want more money than you're willing to pay me. Because I know we have this perception that Habs players should just, well, not should, but we want to take less money to play here. The Noah Dobson, the Suzuki, Caufield, Slav contracts, all under that $8 million mark, right? Dobson, again, taking a pay cut to move here. Then Hutson, we don't know. But Jayden Struble is just like, look, I think we're talking the difference between 1.5 and 2 million, and he's just exercising his right. I think it's okay. I fully anticipate a contract extension to come before it gets to arbitration. Look, if we get to arbitration, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But for now, I'm not worried. I'm actually excited. Leave your thoughts on all this stuff down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Guys, we're here every single day for all the latest Habs content that you don't want to miss. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.